Hi and welcome to Raw Chatter. I am your host speaking, Vicky Midwood, integrative health, nutrition and lifestyle expert, belly fat and addiction eliminator. And today I'm going to be talking about why do I refer to myself as an addiction eliminator? Because some people think that that means I'm going to magically get rid of your addiction or that you need to be an addict to work with me. And that is not the case. When I talk about an addiction eliminator, what I'm talking about is the addictions that the majority of us have, but we don't realize, that are stopping us from getting what we say we want. Whether that's the quality of life that we want, whether it's the business we want, the relationships we want, the health we want, the finances, the experiences. And what most of us don't realize is that we are all addicted to something. Now, that word in itself has got such negative connotations because we've been taught to associate the word addict or addiction with something that is very negative, with something that is bad, with something that is wrong. Some of you may think that it's to do with willpower. It absolutely isn't. And so what I want to do today really is just explain why we struggle with that word, but what exactly does addiction mean, and why do we have such negative connotations to it? Because where do you draw the line between a habit and a routine and an addiction? Now, I'm not going to go into all of the different and there's loads of kind of meanings of addiction, because ultimately when I talk about addiction, I think of it as a behavior or a thought pattern that I believe I cannot function without. And if I try to function without it, I find that it's pretty much impossible. Okay, that's what I think of when I think of an addiction. Now, many of us will find that that is exactly how we feel if somebody was to take the mobile phone off you for a day or two. Right? You would feel extraordinarily uncomfortable. You would probably, some of you would actually be fine with it and have no issues and feel very relieved that you didn't have to be on your phone and scrolling and be available 24/7. But others would be seeking out ways to sneak a look at the internet or the TV or whatever other electronic equipment that there may be to hand. And this is where, people do actually go on detoxes from electronics. And depending on the type of person that you are and how frequently you have utilized electronics in your life will depend on how comfortable or uncomfortable you feel once these things are removed. And so this is where we realize that actually, although we might have thought that picking up the phone multiple times a day was just a habit, when somebody takes away the opportunity for you to keep on repeating that habit, suddenly it feels very, very, very hard. And this is where nobody knows necessarily how they're going to feel until they actually do this. And this is where you can recognize that there are certain types of people who get more addicted to things more easily than others. Now, there are multiple reasons for that, and I'm not here to go into that. But what I do want to talk about today is the fact that many of the people that I speak to who have issues around their health, and they say they want to get healthier and they want to drop body fat and they want to get away from the whole diet culture and the whole diet cycle, because they recognize that is a primary reason for them emotional eating and binge eating and consistently and continuously staying on this yo-yo dieting roller coaster. And one of the things that comes to light very, very early on is that they are addicted to the struggle. And I know that sounds like a ridiculous thing to say, but more and more people I speak to are addicted to struggling, to moaning, to complaining, to taking the hard route. And there's a number of reasons why, and I'm going to really look at two of them on this episode. So one of them is a cultural and a social reason. For whatever reason, we have been taught to believe, or there's a connection that has been created via society, if you like, that says if you find something really hard, but then you get a great result, somehow that's worth more than somebody who did the same thing but found it easy. Now that's bonkers, isn't it, when you think about it? The result is the same, but somehow we feel that you deserve more praise and it's somehow worth more, even though the result's the same, if you struggled a lot to get it. Now that's actually bonkers when you think about it, right? It doesn't make any sense at all. Why should we praise people for taking the hard route, for making it as difficult as possible? Well, part of the reason is because we think these people must have more resilience and more mental capacity to push through discomfort and pain. And we recognize that that is a positive trait. But is it? And that's what I'm going to ask you to think about. Because what is the cost of you taking the hard route? What is the cost of the struggle? And is it actually worth that cost? Is the outcome worth it? And in the majority of cases, the answer is no. In some cases, that is not going to be the case. And there's always an exception. Of course there is, right? Nothing is the same across the board. If we're looking, for example, at taking, I'm going to take an extreme sport. So let's just say that you have climbed a particular mountain and you've taken the, in inverted commas, the easy route. And now you want to challenge yourself and take the harder route, right? Is that something that you have decided to do because you want the extra praise because you chose to go hard? Or is it something that you chose to do because you wanted to see what you were capable of? Now, those are two very, very different things, right? If you took the hard route because you think that you should, right, because other people expect you to take the hard route because you've always taken the hard route, that is not a good reason. But if you're taking the hard route because you know you've done the easy route and you want to challenge yourself to just see what is possible, then absolutely go for that. But when I come across people who come to me for help, they very often are so attached to the struggle that they find it really difficult to even contemplate that there is an easier way, of them feeling more comfortable in their own skin, of them dropping belly fat, of them not having to feel deprived, of them not punishing themselves with hard workouts, of them not having to resist cake when everybody else is eating cake. And they believe that if they haven't got the struggle, then somehow they're not as worthy or worthwhile as a person. And that, again, is something that we need to really eliminate. And that is the addiction that I'm talking about, that I help people eliminate when it comes to belly fat, because so many of them believe that it has to be hard, that it has to be a struggle. And if it's not, somehow you're cheating. Now, a prime example of this is if any of you have read in the news recently about Oprah and talking about her using Wegovy and Ozempic, and she originally said that she thought that these kind of drugs that helped people to get these results was somehow, in inverted commas, cheating, that you should have to put in the hard yards with the diet and the exercise and et cetera, et cetera. And now she's taken it and she's gotten great results. She's now changing how she thinks and she feels about it. Hooray, is what I say, because these sorts of things, when used correctly with medical supervision and with the diet in place and with helping you to recognize why were you turning to food in the first place? What is it that was driving you to want to keep on eating the foods that actually you know your body doesn't do well on? And when she's got that help, which she has, and she's got an exercise program in place that helps her to not lose muscle, because remember, when we're talking about weight, we don't want to lose weight. We want to lose fat. We certainly don't want to lose muscle. So she's doing all of the things that she needs to do, and she has a therapist. So she's talking about what is going on. So is she utilizing these drugs in the same way? But there was a part of her that thought she shouldn't, because she should continue the struggle. And I have to ask, why? Why do you want to continue the struggle? Now, that is my second point, because I'm going to help you to understand why. When we complain about things, when we talk about how hard it is and how difficult it is for us, and when we keep on struggling with making decisions, there is a chemical cocktail, if you like, that is released into our system. Every thought you think, every emotion you feel, there is a corresponding response, neurotransmitter-wise, hormone-wise, endorphin-wise, right? And that is happening. You don't know it is, you can't see it and you can't feel it, but it is happening. And when we stay in negative, when we keep thinking about why we can't do stuff, why it's harder for us, why it's okay for everybody else, why these people are lucky and I'm not, why I'm special and different, and why it has to be hard for me to feel worthy. We keep thinking all of those same sorts of thoughts. We keep getting this chemical cocktail that's released into our system, and that becomes addictive. And what you find is, and you've probably said this, or maybe you've come across people and you've kind of thought, you know what, Jane is never happy unless she's got something to complain about. Spot on. You're dead right. Because when Jane isn't complaining about something, when she hasn't got stress in her life, when things aren't hard, she is being deprived of her chemical cocktail. And I think about this chemical cocktail as your own personal heroin. Right? And a lot of people need to shoot up multiple times a day for them to be able to be themselves. In other words, we take on the identity of somebody who is negative, who lives in struggle, who finds things hard, who believes that things have to be difficult, otherwise they're not worth it. And this is where you recognize, when I talk about addiction, there are so many things that we are addicted to that you don't necessarily think of as an addiction, because you don't know it's going on, but it's coming out in the way you speak and the way that you think, and therefore the actions that you take. And so many people are addicted to the struggle and the lack and the belief that they are different, that it has to be hard. Why? Well, because they are getting their shot of heroin multiple times. Now, this is what I help people to do, is to shift over the addiction that they are getting addicted to in terms of the chemical cocktail release, in terms of the endorphins, in terms of the neurotransmitters. And it's important that we recognize you have to take baby steps, because if you have been somebody who has spent all of your life looking for problems, looking for struggle, looking for things to worry about, that has become your identity. And when we start to shift that, it's going to feel a little bit weird. It's going to feel very uncomfortable. And this is where it is an addiction, right? Because we've got to take you to shifting over to getting addicted to things that make you feel happy, things that bring you joy, things that are going well, things that feel easy, things that are fun. And these things are going to be things that you have learned to tell yourself aren't for you, aren't possible, right? Because you're over here in your other chemical addiction. So shifting that addiction takes some time. And one of the easiest ways to do it is to start recognizing and actually noticing and high-fiving yourself. And if you don't know what I mean by high five, just literally high five yourself. Mel Robbins has written a book on high-fiving yourself and why it's important and why it works. And one of the reasons is that it shifts that whole chemical cocktail that gets released into your system, so that you can start to be addicted to those hormones, neurotransmitters, and endorphins that are released when things are easy and joyous and fun. And isn't that how most of us would like to live our lives? We say it's what we want, but when we've got an addiction to the other variety of chemical cocktail that we keep injecting ourselves with, it seems like it's not even possible to go over here. It absolutely is, but you have to decide that's what you want to do. And one of the hardest things that I find stops people from actually allowing themselves to do it is because they believe that they should be able to lose weight and change their lifestyle habits and drop the fat that they don't want around the middle themselves, that they should know how to do it. Well, no, you shouldn't, because unlike me, you're not a trained health coach who understands how to drop fat. You're not trained in menopause. You're not trained in neurophysiology or biochemistry. You're certainly not trained in how your body functions in terms of its hormones and its stress response and its cycle if you're a female, right? So why on earth do you think you should know how to do this stuff yourself? Now, of course, you can find out. There is nothing now that we can't find out if we look hard enough and in the right places on the internet. Absolutely. So technically, could you do this yourself? Of course you could, right? Would it take you flipping ages? Yes. Would it be a struggle? Yes. Would you then be feeding your addiction for those struggle cocktail chemicals? Yes, you would. So you would be staying true to your identity of somebody who likes to take the hard route. But I'm going to go back to that a question that I asked you way back at the beginning. What is struggle giving you? Right? Because if you are placing your self-worth, self-esteem, value on struggle, what is it costing you? In terms of your health, in terms of your sleep, in terms of quality time with people that you love, in terms of you growing your business, because ultimately, if you pick the struggle route to grow your business and you wonder why other people are doing similar things to you, but they're streets ahead, you need to question, why do I want to take the hard route? Why am I not giving myself permission, opportunity to take the easier route? Because those people who are at the top of the field, the people that you are using as your inspiration, if you like, right? They have recognized very, very early on that struggle is not the best way. They go to people all of the time who can help them to make their life easier, right? Because they recognize that it's a much easier way of being and living. And it actually does get you the exact same result a damn sight faster and in a much more enjoyable way. So I'm going to leave that question with you. It may be something for you to ponder on. Why do I insist on complaining about everything? Why do I insist on sticking to my limitations and convincing myself that I can't afford to reach out for help or a coach, but I can afford to buy junk food and to spend money on other things that actually aren't going to get me any closer to what I say that I want? Have a little think about that. And if you do decide that you are ready to let go of the addiction to those neurotransmitters and hormones and endorphins that are keeping you in lack and struggle, then I am here to help you to shift your addiction to the ones that will help you to drop belly fat, that will help you to sleep better, that actually will help you to get the relationship that you want with the people that you love, and crucially, help you to grow your business, because you'll be more energetic, you'll feel more confident, and you'll recognize that you don't have to pick the hard route. And on that note, I'm going to say thank you for listening. As always, look after yourself. We only have one body and one life as far as we know. Look after it, because it's looking after you. Take care, and I will see you on the next one.